It was on Saturday that the Giants and Dodgers played baseball in San Francisco, and what a day it was to honor Barry Bonds.
Woo!
Barry Bonds throwing out the first pitch to the in the game between the NL West division rivals. I don't think that it is a sign of healing. I think that it is a sign of the San Francisco Giants promoting one of their own. But Jason Stewart, our executive producer, had a big problem with the Giants and Barry Bonds putting on a showcase on Saturday.
And there's context for this, right? Because the owner of the Giants, I think, just recently said that there's likely going to be a statue in front of AT&T Park. And then also Sammy Sosa, remember? He was brought back to Wrigley to a standing ovation recently. And I think it's a disturbing trend, as I pointed out in my X post. Disturbing trend of like Major League Baseball forgiving the steroid era, like the faces of the steroid era. Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa bastardized the sport more than anybody. They are the ones that ruin the record books. They are the ones that were the poster children for that era. So it's like you always hear this, well, everybody was doing it. They were just doing it better than everybody. Like there are so many like justifications for that era that I saw this weekend in my post. And I thought, well, this probably makes for good sports talk fodder because I can't believe how forgiving people are. And I can't believe that the current leadership in baseball acknowledges that was an era that they're embarrassed of and they shouldn't have looked the other way. And now they're celebrating the key figures of that era. It doesn't rub me the right way, but I'm an old curmudgeon baseball fan.
I will say this, that I think that there is a unique audience, and it doesn't mean that it's a small audience that is up in arms over this. I think that I am not surprised that Barry Bonds got cheered for the San Francisco Giants. I think baseball fans are mad at steroid users when they're not on their team.
Okay.
So, and I'm only saying this because Ryan Braun of the Brewers was one who was caught up in a later scandal with Bosch in Florida, part of what A-Rod was brought into. And each team may have their own player in terms of supporting it. For the Giants, it just happens to be one of the best that they've ever had. For the Brewers, like Ryan Braun, like truly was a great Milwaukee Brewer, not up there with Yount, Molitor and how they're revered. So Bonds is at a different level. But I expect Jason to be mad as a baseball fan, but I don't expect Giants fans to be mad. I actually don't expect Major League Baseball to be mad about it because it sure seemed like they were fine with how everything went as it was going on. I think the farce was feeling that they were mad about it. So it's such a unique sort of deal, but I get why it turns you off, but I don't know what we need to do to Barry Bonds, especially if it's a home baseball game, to penalize him. Does he have to stay away? I mean, he's been a coach in Major League Baseball since then, right? So why shouldn't he have the opportunity to go and at least throw out a first pitch in front of the home fans who really, I feel, have absolutely no problem with what he did throughout his career in San Francisco?
So I hear where you may not like it, Jason. I understand, but I am not bothered by it for a couple of reasons here. I think the fact that Barry Bonds never won a world, I'm right? He never won a World Series, right? That adds
Correct.
to it. Like if he would have won, and let's say he won a lot, I think that's part of it. Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire won one, but did Mark McGwire, when he won one, was he on the steroids? Wasn't that before or like at the start?
Mark McGwire won in 1989.
And wasn't the steroids in like the 90s whatever.
Yeah.
So he has one. Sammy Sosa.
I put it this way: I would be shocked if Mark McGwire wasn't on something in the
in
late
that
80s.
year,
Yes.
he's got one.
Jose Canseco was so ripped. And, yes, like
but they didn't win a bunch. Like they were, yes, the Batch brothers, right? But like I think them not winning is one of the reasons it doesn't bother me. Also, I understand like they cheated. You still have to hit the ball. To me, knowing the pitch is worse than you juicing up. Like if I'm a pitcher and you know what I'm about to pitch, that I would not stand for. Knowing that you're juiced up, I'll be like, try and hit it anyway. I'm still going to try and strike you out. Like, yeah, they're stronger, but they still have to hit the ball. So that's another part of it. And Barry Bonds specifically going out for the Giants game, like, I don't care. I don't know if it's that I'm moving on and forgiving. I don't know if I genuinely was ever really mad, if I'm being honest.
I think that's part of where it is in baseball. I don't think there was ever a point where Barry Bonds is hitting 73 home runs in a season, and Giants fans are like, I'm not watching this crap.
Exactly.
Like, you know, like I mean,
or baseball fans.
Yeah.
Not even just Giants fans, right? Like you were tuning in to see Barry Bonds.
At the time, yes. I think in later years you can feel scorn like Jason. I do, and I looked at Jason's tweet. I didn't realize you tweeted it until today, Jason. But the responses to it, if you don't mind me, shut up. That was from Marshall. Eric in the South Side right signed Shoeless Joe Jackson and Pete Rose. That's one I'll get to. Somebody wrote, hey, Allberry knew it was the cream in the clear. Someone bad take, Jim Rome voice. You going to be okay? Like those sort of things. So you're getting a lot of hate with all of this. But the Pete Rose thing pops up. And the thing with Pete Rose was there was the opportunity where he was betting against his team.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the whole sake, and it's an argument as old as time of the day you don't bet on him is the day that you're not betting on your team to win. So if you're betting on the Reds one day and then you don't bet on them the next, that means you're not as confident that they're going to win the next. So in essence, you think that the day before, the first day, is the day that they're going to win. So then you also may use your bullpen in a different way, may play different players in a different way. There's a slippery slope when it comes to Pete Rose. I don't know, and you can maybe tell me on what people may think that the slippery slope is on the flip side of Barry Bonds just trying to be the best and trying to win and set records. It may be ruining the baseball record book. But again, I don't think San Francisco Giants fans care. I don't know if Milwaukee Brewer fans care that Ryan Braun did what he did. I don't know if Cubs fans, obviously not anymore, hate what Sammy Sosa did. But on the Rose thing, I think that there are two sides to it. On the steroid thing, I'm not sure that there are two sides to it.
I always say this, that like the Pete Rose thing, I think, like tears at the fabric of the game. You know, you always hear this. The second that your audience thinks that they're showing up for WWE, you've lost the credibility of your sport. And if they think that players on the field are compromised or throwing the game, then that works at the fabric of the sport. The steroid guys were doing something that was against the law of the land. People say that it was against the rule. It wasn't against the rules in baseball, and I always say this: there's a difference between it not being against the rules and the players' union literally collectively bargained the inability to test them for that. It doesn't mean it wasn't against the rules. Now, these guys did it for their own financial benefit. Like, for whatever reason, the revisionist history is that these guys did it to levitate the interest of the game. They were each in it for themselves.
I agree with that.
It was borderline minor leaguers could make tens of millions of dollars. You know, people making tens of millions of dollars could be Hall of Famers. So they weren't there were no good guys in this whole thing. But I just think that to celebrate the people that jeopardized the credibility of the record books, Aaron Judge hit a home run number 350 this weekend. Okay. We should be celebrating the fact that he's the fastest player to ever do it. The problem is, how do we even consider home runs nowadays? what's good, what's not, and it's Barry Bonds' fault. It's Sammy Sosa's fault. So for me, it's just like Monty just said. What do we do to penalize these guys? You don't need to penalize them any more than they already have. They're not in the Hall of Fame. They've already kind of received their penalty, but just don't celebrate them. Don't take a day out of the year and celebrate them with a statue and a first pitch. I think that's my problem.
I understand it. I just don't think that the San Francisco Giants, and that's who we're talking about here, are the ones that had a problem with it or have a problem with it afterwards. Now, they may have been the ones to turn the blind eye, just like the 29 other teams in Major League Baseball, but I understand the numbers portion of it. Like when we talk about the home run number, I think Bonds is 762. Is that what the number is, or is it 763?
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
We know it's 755 for Hank Aaron. And Isaac, do you know what it is?
Well, I think you just made a great point by saying that. For the record, it's 762, but a whole generation of people were raised on having 714 of Babe Ruth and 755 of Hank Aaron memorized.
And those are the people like Jason, in essence, a little bit of myself, where I don't look at Barry Bonds' record as being the real record. 61 is a lot easier to remember than 73. Even when McGwire hit 70, it was a round number, and that was before Bonds ended up breaking it a couple of years ago. But when McGwire stood at 70, that did say something to me, and then it kind of went away, where 61 ends up being the magic number. And it goes away because Bonds broke 70, and then we obviously know what happened after that. But I think that the continuous penalty is how Monty thinks it, how Isaac thinks of it, how I just explained it to myself. That's the constant penalty. I can't fault the San Francisco Giants for honoring one of their own. Now, if Major League Baseball were tonight in Atlanta to bring out Barry Bonds to throw the first pitch, then I have then there's a problem with it. But in terms of the local team and how they're doing it, I think of the audience right now that 22 years ago, 23 years ago, those people who were maybe early teenagers, 13, now they're in their buying prime in their late 30s. They're going to want to go to the ballpark and see the guy that made the summer of 2002 so magnificent. And so that's why they want to go and see Barry Bonds.
Yeah, I think you just hit it. If this was just the All-Star game in Atlanta and you're sending Barry Bonds out, I think it would actually raise a lot of questions. And a lot of people would be like, why him? The Giants, that's their dude. He's always going to be their dude. But I will also say the fact that Aaron Judge is hitting faster than anybody, the 350, surpassing Mark McGwire by almost 200 games, it goes to show that look at y'all cheated, and there are players that are still doing this better than you right now. So maybe that's why I'm like,
I'll tell you what, when we were on Judge Watch, 461 may not be the penalty that Jason Stewart wants for Barry Bonds, but I think it says a lot more, just like the point of not remembering what the actual number was that Bonds ended up finishing with. I just remember that the single season in the home run, one of them ends in a 3 and one of them ends in a 2 with Bonds. So I wasn't sure if it was 762, but 73 is the home run number. But it's moments like Aaron Judge hitting number 62, us having to couch it or characterize it by saying it's the American League home run record.
Right.
Stinks. Like that part stinks about it. But we were watching everything that Aaron Judge was doing up until that point. There was even years prior to that when Giancarlo Stanton was getting close, when he had, 57 or 59. Didn't have nearly as much of the hype, which I think Judge being a member of the Yankees helps with. But like those are the things, like, again, it wasn't like, he's 15 away from 73. We were still talking about 61. That's why I bring up Stanton, just because he was in the National League at that point, and he was getting close to Roger Maris's mark of 61.
You talk about 98 and you talk about 2002 and all these memories that these Reuters were providing their fans. Don't you feel duped? In other words, I look back on that. I, too, was excited for all that as a baseball fan. I was ignorant to what was going on. But then after it was revealed that all these guys were cheating, then I felt bad, and I felt worse because I fell for it. It's kind of like the Milli Vanilli thing. It's like, We're not putting Milli Vanilli in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame because they were shams. They were cheated. Like, people who went to their concerts feel probably really stupid right now.
I don't know if this just popped into my head. I did not feel stupid like you did.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Feel
I don't
that either.
feel like they pulled one over on me.
Then that's the difference, I think, in this argument, right?
I think so. I also think that there's something happening right now where, like I joke, so James Wood's a first-time All-Star for the Nationals. And I remember I talked to you guys there was a stat that came out that, like, James Wood had the second highest exit velocity of any player in the big leagues outside of, like, Shohei Ohtani or something like that.
And we were like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, but new baseball is like,
Yeah.
that's freaking amazing.
Right.
And so now, and maybe Jason doesn't want to hear this, but if you were to tell somebody what Barry Bonds' exit velocity was at that time compared to, what it is now, they may be blown away by those numbers. They're maybe not caring about the numbers that Isaac cared about, that you cared about, Jason, that Ryan cared about, that Monty cared about, that I cared about, of 61, of 755, and of those numbers. And us being fans of those numbers and trying to be protector of the record books may start to diminish even more as time goes by. So then at what point do you say to Sammy Sosa and Barry Bonds, people don't even care about the records anymore, but we're still going to hold you out? Like that, maybe to your point, that's the principle of it. I just don't think that at some point, I do think that there has to be some leniency. And I just look at the Giants and being like, they never felt that it was bad. Maybe they felt dirty as Bonds and Balco were being dragged through the mud. But at no point did I feel that the Giants had any sort of backlash for what Barry Bonds was doing.
They never did. The Giants fans from day one have always been behind the guy. They really haven't even wavered. I know that for a fact.
And Sammy Sosa was up and down. Sammy Sosa was also busted with an illegal bat.
Right.
So, like, there's...
What, he was doing it just for the fans? Is that what he said? I cork my bats for the fans. So you're on roids and you cork your bats?
So that's, there's something with that. Do you think steroids and corking your bats are the same thing? Honestly, honest question.
I mean, they're both cheating, right?
That's the point,
That's
right?
the point. They're both cheating.
Like, I look at steroids. I'm more appalled by corking of the bats.
I am too.
Than the steroids.
I am too.
Yeah.
Because you still have to hit the ball.
Yes.
Like you still have you're strong enough, but you still have to hit the ball. But I am more offended by the corking of the bat.
I remember that being an argument at the time on sports talk radio that, Arnold Schwarzenegger couldn't hit 50 home runs in a year. And I'll always say this. It takes an intense, high-level skill level of hand-eye coordination to hit a baseball on a major league level. So I've never argued that point. But I will say this. Like the Jason Giambis of the world that were able to make $300 million in their career as opposed to just kind of have a career, it takes those high-level handball coordination people, and it just made everyone this like fake. I don't even know what you say. There's just a certain quality to it that's just artificial, and I'll never get over that part. So I think that's my problem.
Also, some of the players had much longer careers. Crazy to think that Bonds would be a better hitter in his later years than he was early on in his career. But it's Roger Clemens. Like, and we grew up in a time, Monty, you weren't born yet, where Roger Clemens was the deal in the 80s. And then to do the things that he then ended up doing in the 90s with the Blue Jays and the Yankees, and it kind of being the same Roger Clemens. And I do feel dumb to that point of looking back and saying, wow, look at Roger Clemens.
Right.
You go, old man. And then just being naive to it. So there's I think that if you're a fan of those teams, and that's what this is, you're not going to be bothered. But if it was a league-wide thing, again, with the All-Star game, then it's a bigger issue. Remember when Pete Rose, it was in Atlanta, right? Was it at the World Series where they did the All-Century team? And then Jim Gray asked him the question.
Was that Fenway? Or
I thought it was Atlanta.
Was it Atlanta? Okay.
Yeah, or I thought it was a World Series.
Am I mixing
maybe.
the Ted Williams thing with?
Yeah. Isaac Lowenkron has got some information.
Yeah, it was before Game 2 of the 1999 World Series in Atlanta, Braves-Yankees.
Wow.
Yes. So there's Pete Rose at that point of a Major League Baseball thing being welcomed back. And I'll say this, there were more people on Rose's side than I don't think there are people who are passionate for Barry Bonds. I think there are people who are indifferent to Barry Bonds right now. You're passionately against it. There are more people who I think are passionately against it than are passionately for Barry Bonds. But with Pete Rose, different story. There were passionate people for it and passionate people against Pete Rose. And I think that's what also made his situation so unique. By the way, Pete Rose is getting in the Hall of Fame because he's dead. Like that is, it's true. Because you will hear people say, oh, of course, now that he's gone, you put him in. No, that's the reason that he's in. The rule that Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball wrote is your lifetime ban is done when you're dead. Mm-hmm. So if Pete Rose were still alive today, he would not be in the Hall of Fame. And Monty and I would be having this conversation with Jason at another time, whenever Pete Rose. But that is why Pete Rose is now in the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds may have to wait to that point to be honestly blunt to it for it to truly get past it.